I always believed that love and family were the two strongest things in this world, but I was wrong. Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. My name is Adam, and this is the story of how my own father and the woman I loved betrayed me and how I exposed them in front of the world. It all started 3 years ago when life looked perfect. I had built my own small tech company. After years of sleepless nights, my business was finally growing. My father was proud of me, and my fiancée, Lena, was the love of my life. At least, that's what I thought. One sunny morning, I was in my office, going through emails. Lena came in holding 2 coffee cups. She placed one in front of me and smiled. "Adam," she said softly, "you need to take a break sometimes. You work too much." I laughed and said, "I'm working hard for us, Lena, for our future." She leaned closer, resting her chin on her hand. After our wedding, she whispered, "I want us to travel somewhere far, somewhere peaceful." Her eyes sparkled when she spoke, and I remember thinking, she's the one. She's my forever. That evening, my father came over for dinner. He was a strong man, successful, respected, confident. He looked at Lena and said with a smile, "You've chosen well, son. She's beautiful, smart, and elegant. You're a lucky man." I laughed, proud to have his approval. He raised his glass. "To my son's new life," he said, "may this marriage bring him success and joy." Everyone smiled. It was a perfect night. But now, when I think about that moment, I realize something. The way he looked at her, the long pause, the faint smile, it wasn't a father's pride. It was something else, something that made my chest tighten, even though I couldn't explain why at the time. A week later, I caught a small change in Lena. She seemed distracted. She would often stare at her phone, smile slightly, then quickly put it away. When I asked who it was, she said, "Just my friend, Sarah." I believed her, because when you're in love, you don't see the cracks. You only see what you want to see. Days went by. My father started visiting my office more often. He'd sit on the couch, watch me work, and ask random questions. "How's Lena doing?" He'd say, "You sure she's ready for this marriage?" I thought he was just being protective, but now I realize he was studying me. One night, as Lena and I were choosing wedding venues, her phone buzzed again. A message popped up on her screen. It was from someone saved as Mr. H. The message said, "Don't worry, he won't find out. Not yet." I froze for a second. My heart started beating faster. When I asked her who Mr. H. was, she laughed it off. "Oh, it's just a client from the wedding planner agency," she said quickly. "He's helping me organize things." I nodded, but deep down, something felt wrong. Her voice shook a little when she said it. Her hands were cold. That night, as she left, I kept staring at her contact list in my mind. Mr. H, why not use his full name? Why hide it? I wanted to believe her. I really did. But that message kept echoing in my head. He won't find out. Not yet. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. Lena's tone became dry. Our calls got shorter. Sometimes she said she was busy with wedding work, but her voice sounded distant. And my father. He was suddenly very interested in my company. He asked about financial reports, ownership shares, and contracts, things he never cared about before. When I asked why, he said, "Just looking out for you, son. You never know who might try to take advantage of you." I didn't know it then, but those words were a warning. Not from danger outside, but from him. A few weeks later, I decided to surprise Lena with dinner. I called her, no answer. I tried again. Still nothing. It was already 10 p.m. She had said she was home all day feeling tired. So I thought I'd cheer her up. I bought her favorite food, grabbed a bouquet of white roses, and drove to her apartment. But when I got there, her car wasn't outside. Her lights were off. My heart dropped. Where could she be at this hour? I tried calling again, no answer. That's when something inside me broke. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel tightly, trying to calm myself. Then a thought crossed my mind. One I didn't want to believe. What if she was with someone? And then another thought hit me. My father's villa. He had a private villa outside the city. He said he went there sometimes for meetings. It was late, but something told me to go there. As I drove through the dark roads, my mind was racing. Every heartbeat felt heavier. My stomach twisted with fear and denial. When I reached the villa, the lights were on. There were 2 cars parked outside. One of them was Lena's. My breath caught in my throat. I walked closer, quietly. Through the big glass window, I saw them sitting close together. Lena was laughing softly. My father leaned toward her, touching her hand gently. She didn't pull away. My world stopped. Everything inside me shattered at once. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break the glass, to ask why. But I couldn't move. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. I stepped back slowly, my heart breaking with each step. I got in my car and drove away, tears streaming down my face. That night, I sat alone, staring at the engagement ring I had bought her, the same ring I thought she'd wear for the rest of her life. I whispered to myself, "Why, Dad? Why her? Why both of you?" And in that moment, I realized something that would change me forever. Sometimes, betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the people who swear they love you. But this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Because the next day, I made a promise to myself I wouldn't let them destroy me. I would make them face the truth. In front of everyone, the next morning, I woke up feeling empty. It's strange how betrayal doesn't hit all at once. It sinks in, slowly, like poison. You don't die instantly, you just stop feeling alive. I went to work like nothing had happened. My body moved, but my mind was somewhere else. I couldn't stop seeing that image, my father's hand on Lena's, their smiles. Their secret. For the first time in my life, I felt like a stranger in my own world. At the office, my assistant, Rami, knocked on the door. "Sir, are you okay? You look tired." I forced a smile. "Just a long night." He nodded politely and left, but I could tell he knew something was wrong. Everyone could feel it. The silence around me had changed. That evening, I called Lena. She answered after a long pause. Her voice was sweet, soft, and fake. "Hey, Adam, sorry I couldn't talk yesterday." My phone died. I froze. Her phone died. Really? Then why was it connected to my father's villa Wi-Fi last night? Yes, I knew. Because the villa's security system was linked to my company servers. Every connected device left a log. When I checked the previous night, one name appeared, Lena's phone. I didn't tell her I knew. Instead, I said calmly, "It's okay. I just missed you, that's all." She replied, "Aw, that's sweet. I missed you too." But her voice lacked warmth. It sounded like a line from a script she didn't believe anymore. When I hung up, I stared at my reflection in the glass window. My eyes looked different, colder, and I knew what I had to do next. For the next few days, I played my part. I smiled when she texted. I laughed at her jokes. I even sent her flowers. But behind that smile, I was watching. Every move, every word. She started making excuses more often. "Can't meet today. I'm busy with wedding prep. Dad called me. He needs help. Can we talk later?" Her lies grew like weeds, but I watered them with patience, because sometimes silence can be the sharpest weapon. Meanwhile, my father became strangely kind. He offered to help with the wedding expenses, sent gifts to Lena, even suggested booking a honeymoon villa under his name. I could see it now, the manipulation, the control, the fake concern. When I looked at him, I didn't see a father anymore. I saw a man hiding behind a smile. A man who thought I would never see the monster behind the mask. One afternoon, I went to his office for a meeting. He greeted me with his usual fake warmth. "Son, you've been quiet lately. Everything okay between you and Lena?" I nodded. "Yes, everything's perfect." He smiled. "Good, I'm glad. She's a smart girl. Reminds me of your mother." The way he said that made my blood boil. How dare he mention my mother, the woman he had loved and lost, in the same breath as the woman he was betraying me with? I wanted to throw the papers in his face, but instead, I took a deep breath and said, "Yeah, she's great." He chuckled. "Good boy. Don't overthink things. Women sometimes need space." Space. He was asking for space while sharing mine behind my back. I left his office that day with one thought running through my mind. They think I'm blind. They think I'm weak. They have no idea what's coming. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in front of my laptop, staring at a blank screen. I wanted to cry, to scream, to break something, but I didn't. Instead, I opened a new folder and named it Truth. Inside that folder, I began saving every little detail. Photos, messages, business records. Anything that could one day expose them both. Because I wasn't going to let my emotions destroy me. I was going to use them to build my revenge. A few days later, Lena came to visit. She brought cupcakes and her fake laughter. We sat on the couch talking about wedding invitations. But I noticed something new. Her perfume. It wasn't the one I bought her. It was my father's brand, the one he always gifted to his special friends. When I asked about it, she smiled and said, "Oh, your father gave it to me. He said it would go well with my dress." I kept my expression calm, but inside, my heart clenched. The nerve? To bring his gift into my house. I wanted to ask her, "Why are you doing this?" But I knew her answer wouldn't matter anymore. She had already crossed the line. The following week, I started noticing patterns. Whenever my father left for his business trips, Lena suddenly became unavailable to. She'd say she was helping her cousin, visiting family, or too tired to meet. Each excuse matched his schedule. Every lie lined up perfectly, like a puzzle I didn't want to complete, but couldn't stop solving. I decided to test something. I told Lena I was going out of town for a few days for a tech conference. In reality, I stayed in the city. That night, she didn't call me, didn't text, didn't even check in once. But my phone pinged with a new notification. A motion alert from my father's villa camera system. 2 figures entered around 9 p.m. One of them wore Lena's red jacket. I sat there in the dark, watching the footage on my laptop. Every second cut like a knife. I closed the laptop halfway through. I couldn't take it anymore. That was the night I realized I wasn't dealing with a mistake. I was dealing with a betrayal that had been carefully planned. For the next few days, I didn't confront them. I just watched, listened, prepared. Because real revenge doesn't need noise. It grows in silence, like fire waiting for oxygen. One evening, Lena came by again. She sat close, acting loving, pretending nothing was wrong. She rested her head on my shoulder and said, "You've been distant lately. Are you okay?" I looked at her and smiled gently. "I'm fine, just thinking about the future." She smiled back. "Our future?" I paused. "Maybe." She didn't notice the coldness in my tone. She didn't see the quiet storm behind my eyes. That night, as she left, I whispered to myself, "Enjoy your lies while you can, because soon the truth will speak for me." The truth has a strange way of revealing itself. Sometimes it screams right in your face, and sometimes it whispers, but no matter how quiet it comes, you always feel it deep in your chest. For me, that moment came one rainy Friday night. It was late, maybe close to midnight. I was still at the office, finishing a project presentation for a new investor. The city outside was quiet, just the sound of raindrops against the window. I was about to head home when I saw a message on my phone from Lena. "Don't wait up for me tonight. I'm helping my cousin with wedding stuff." At first, I just nodded. But then I remembered something. Her cousin had moved to another country last year. My hands went cold. I picked up my keys, my heart pounding faster than ever. I didn't know what I was going to do or what I would find, but I had to know the truth. As I drove through the rain, my thoughts raced like a storm. What if I was wrong? What if it wasn't what I thought? But deep down, I already knew. The road to my father's villa felt longer than ever. When I reached the gate, I parked far enough so they wouldn't see my car. The lights were on again, warm, golden, and peaceful, like the home of 2 people who had no shame. I walked through the side garden. Quietly, my shoes soaking in the wet grass. The closer I got, the louder their laughter became. I stopped behind a large window, and there they were. My father sat on the couch, relaxed, holding a glass of wine. Lena sat beside him, her hand on his knee. They looked comfortable. "You think he suspects anything?" my father asked. "No," Lena replied, smiling softly. "He still trusts us." My heart shattered. Those words hit me harder than anything I'd ever felt. "Good," my father said. "Once he signs those partnership papers, the company will be ours. And then you and I can live the life we deserve." She laughed. "He's always been too trusting. It's almost sad." I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a plan. A trap that both of them had built around me slowly, carefully, while pretending to love me. I stood there in the dark, my fists clenched, my body shaking. The rain poured harder outside, almost as if the sky was crying with me. I wanted to storm and I wanted to scream their names and demand answers. But my mind stopped me. No, not yet. If I confronted them now, I would lose everything. My company, my dignity, my revenge, They were playing a game, and from that moment on, I decided to play too, but by my rules. I turned away quietly, walking back to my car with a heavy heart and a burning mind. My reflection in the window looked like someone I didn't know. Someone cold, calm, and dangerous, and maybe that's who I needed to become. I sat in my car for a long time, listening to the rain. Tears rolled down my face, but I didn't wipe them away. They were proof that the old me still existed, the one who could still feel pain. Then I took a deep breath and whispered, "This ends on my terms." The next day, I went to work like usual. Lena texted me in the morning. "Good morning, my love. Did you sleep well?" I looked at the message and almost laughed. Her lies had become so normal, so smooth, that even her words sounded like a performance. I replied, "Yes, slept great. Hope your cousin is doing okay." I wanted to see how she would react. Within seconds, she texted back, "She's fine. Thanks for asking." A perfect lie. No hesitation, no guilt. That's when I knew she wasn't sorry. She didn't think she'd ever get caught. Later that day, my father called me into his office. He smiled warmly, like a proud parent. "Son, I reviewed those partnership documents you sent me. I think you should sign them soon. It'll protect your company's future." I stared at him, trying not to show any emotion. "Thanks, Dad. I'll think about it." He nodded. "Good boy. Always take my advice. It'll save you trouble." I smiled. If only he knew how much trouble he was about to face. That night, I went home and opened my laptop. I rewatched the footage from the villa. Their voices echoed in my head. He still trusts us. It's almost sad. Each sentence was a knife, and every replay made the wound deeper. But I kept watching, not to hurt myself, but to remember why I was doing this. Because pain, when directed, becomes power. The next few days, I acted normal, maybe too normal. I took Lena out for dinner. I laughed with my father. I even pretended to discuss the wedding date. Lena hugged me that night and whispered, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." And I said, "I know." Inside, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a cold silence that gave me strength. A few days later, Lena called and said she wanted to visit the office. When she arrived, she looked beautiful, like always. Her smile was gentle, her eyes full of lies. She sat on my desk and said, "Your father told me you've been working too hard again. You should rest." I nodded. "Yeah, maybe I should." She leaned closer, touching my hand. "I love you, Adam. You know that, right?" I looked at her, forcing a smile. "I know, and I love the truth." She blinked, confused. "What?" "Nothing," I said. "Just talking to myself." When she left, I stared at the door for a long time. The same door she'd walked through 100 times before, but soon it would be the door that ended her game. Because by then, I had already started collecting evidence. Every message, every phone call, every meeting at the villa. I had friends in tech. I knew how to trace things, how to record without being noticed. Piece by piece, I built a puzzle, one that would expose them both. That night, I looked at an old photo on my desk. It was of my father, my mother, and me. We were smiling, a real, pure smile. I whispered, "Mom, if you can see me right now, I'm sorry. I'm sorry your love turned into this." I placed the photo face down and opened my laptop again. Inside that same folder, Truth, I added a new file, Plan A, because now the game had changed. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the storm that was coming for them. They say time heals everything, but sometimes time just gives your pain more room to grow. For the next few weeks, I lived like a ghost inside my own life. I smiled when people smiled at me. I laughed when someone made a joke, but inside, I was hollow. Every sound, every place, every word from them reminded me of what they'd done. My father, the man who taught me trust, Lena, the woman who made me believe in love, and both of them using me as a ladder for their own greed. One night I drove to the edge of the city, a place where my father used to take me fishing when I was little. I sat by the water, the wind cold on my face, and I thought about everything. How did it all come to this? How did my life, the one I built with love and loyalty, become a stage for betrayal? I looked at my reflection in the water and whispered, "You let them fool you, Adam. You believed too much, trusted too deep, For a long moment, I felt like breaking down completely, crying, shouting, smashing something, anything to release what was burning inside me. But I didn't, because I realized something right then. They didn't just betray me, they underestimated me, and that was their biggest mistake. The next morning, I woke up different. Calm, focused. I looked in the mirror and saw a new version of myself, one that didn't need approval, one that didn't crave love. I just needed justice. I went to my office early, before anyone else arrived. I opened my laptop and renamed the folder that held all my evidence. It no longer said truth, it now said revenge. Right under it, I created subfolders. Phase 1, observe. Phase 2, control. Phase 3, expose. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, but if they played chess with my life, then I was going to play smarter. And this time, I was going to win. The first step was simple. I needed to know everything: where they met, how they talked, what their endgame was. I already had footage from the villa, but I needed more. So, I installed a new camera, hidden, undetectable, right in the corner near the fireplace. Then I placed a small audio recorder inside my father's car. Every night, I'd listen to their conversations, short, careless words that revealed their next steps. He'll sign the deal next week. Once that's done, we can transfer the shares quietly. He won't suspect a thing. Every word felt like poison, but I didn't T-skip a single second. Pain was my teacher now. To beat them, I had to make them feel safe. So, I did exactly that. I visited my father more often, had dinner with him, asked for his advice like the good son he thought I still was. And Lena, I treated her even better than before. I brought her flowers, planned weekend getaways, sent her sweet messages, all while knowing she'd probably forward them to my father just to keep their act perfect. It was almost funny. They thought they were controlling the story, but they didn't realize I was rewriting it from behind the curtain. One evening, during dinner with both of them, I looked at Lena and said casually, "You know what I hate the most? Dishonesty. When people look into your eyes and lie without blinking." She froze for a second, her spoon halfway to her lips. Then she smiled, fake, like always. "Yeah, that's the worst." I smiled back. "Right." My father chuckled, completely unaware. "That's why trust is everything, son. Without trust, life falls apart." I looked at him, my eyes steady. "You're right, Dad, but when trust breaks, life doesn't fall apart, it burns." He didn't catch the message, but Lena did. I saw it in her eyes, a small flicker of fear. Good. Let her feel it. Over the next few weeks, I subtly changed things in the company. Reassigned departments, altered security permissions, redirected email copies to my private folder. If my father wanted to use my company against me, he'd have to go through me first. And if Lena wanted to be his silent partner, she'd soon realize silence can also mean isolation. I made sure every plan they tried quietly failed. A proposal went missing. A document accidentally got deleted. A client deal suddenly canceled. They started blaming each other, just as I hoped. "You told me you handled it." "No, you said it was confirmed." Their trust began to crack the same way they'd cracked mine. One night, Lena came to my apartment, pretending to be worried. Her voice trembled as she said, "Adam, your father's been acting strange lately. I think something's wrong." I looked at her and said softly, "Really? Maybe he's just feeling guilty." She blinked. "Guilty? About what?" "You tell me," I said. "You've been spending a lot of time with him." She laughed nervously. "What?" "No, it's not like that." I stood up, walked toward her, and said, "Lena, do you remember what I told you the first time we met? That I can forgive mistakes, but never lies." Her lips parted, but no words came out. Then, like a coward, she changed the topic. "I'm sorry, Adam. I just want us to be happy." I smiled faintly. "We will be very soon." That night, after she left, I sat by the window again, the same place I'd once cried over her, but not anymore. Now, I was patient. Every revenge has a perfect moment, and mine was getting closer. Next week, my father had planned a business party, the same event where he wanted me to sign the final partnership documents. What he didn't know was that I had changed those documents. The signature he was waiting for would not give him control. It would expose everything. As I stared out at the city lights, I whispered, "You both built your world on lies. Let's see how it feels when the truth walks in." The air felt lighter that night. For the first time in months, I actually smiled. because the boy who once loved too much was gone, and in his place stood a man who knew how to destroy silently. The week of the business party arrived. My father called it a celebration of success. He told everyone it was about legacy, partners, and future plans. Of course, it was also the night he wanted me to sign the papers, giving him more control. I walked into that house knowing everything. I had the videos, the recordings, the emails, and the plan. But what I needed more than proof was timing. I needed the right moment when their lives would collapse in front of everyone. The house was full of people that night, old business friends, board members, family friends, and a few media photographers that my father liked to impress. They all gathered in the big living room with the open bar and the warm lights. Lena smiled and moved like a queen, hand in my father's arm, whispering jokes I already knew the truth about. I kept my face calm. I laughed at the right times. I told the same stories my father loved. I drank when he raised a toast. I played the son who admired his father. Under that calm surface, everything was moving. My laptop sat on the table in the study next door, hooked to the living room screen. Omar, my investigator, was in the corner with a headset, ready to press play when I gave him the look. My lawyer had copies of the evidence, quietly checking everything for legal strength. My assistant, Rami, kept a steady stream of excuses ready if anyone tried to cut the power or redirect the attention. I felt like a conductor waiting for the final note. At the right moment, after a speech about family and business success, my father stood up and said, "Tonight, I want us to celebrate partnership. I want Adam to sign a document that will secure the company's future." He smiled at me with that same smile he always used when he wanted my approval. I stood up and walked to the center of the room. Everyone turned to watch. Lena's eyes met mine for a second. Bright, confident, convinced she had one. I asked to borrow the microphone. Before I sign, I said, keeping my voice steady, "I want to share something with everyone who cares about me and about the company." I held up a small remote that looked like a simple clicker. The lights dimmed, and the screen came alive. The video started with harmless things, family dinners, vacations. Then it cut to the villa footage, their whispers, their plans. Lena saying, "He trusts us. He'll sign next week." My father saying, "Once the papers are signed, it's ours." The room grew quiet. Phones went still. The sound of the video was raw, nothing edited. Their faces on the screen matched the voices I had recorded. The proof was simple and ugly. I watched the room, watched them. The expressions shifted: shock, disbelief, shame. Some people stood open-mouthed. Some looked at my father like a stranger. People I thought were friends turned slow, as if the ground beneath them had moved.